Hey toy fans, D21 Beast Rob here, back with another figure review for you guys here today, and today we're looking at the Diamond Select Ghostbuster figures. Well, at least Ray Stantz anyway. And this is a figure line from Diamond that I've been super excited for. Now, before you guys rush out and buy these things online, you need to know there are two versions of these figures on the market. What we have here is the comic book retail exclusive version of the figure. It comes with a giant display base and your standard Diamond Select, Marvel Select style packaging. But there is a cheaper version of this figure available exclusively at Toys R Us that does not include the diorama piece. What's the diorama piece, you ask? Well, we'll touch on that in just a little bit. But like I said, this is the standard packaging we're used to for the Diamond Select Universal Monsters or the Marvel Select figures. We've got the Ghostbusters logo here on the left and it says Select there at the bottom. We've got a giant blister bubble packaging that does house the Ray figure inside as well as his accessories. On the side of the packaging, we've got an image of Ray straight out of the movie. And on the back of this packaging, we do have quite a long bio for Ray. Go ahead and pause now if you want to read that. We've got an image of the figure, and then we have a lineup of the other figures available in Wave 1. They include Louis Tully and Winston Zeddemore. Reviews of both of those figures will be coming soon to my channel. Alright, toy fans, that's the packaging. I'm really excited to get Ray out of the box, so let's get to it and see what he's all about. Here we have Ray out of the packaging, and I think I'm going to shoot from the hip a little more than I typically do for this review. I have a lot of feelings about this figure. I actually waited a whole night before I reviewed this guy because I was really excited about this toy line from Diamond Select, and it just kind of misfires in several places for me. The first thing I want to take a look at is actually the head sculpt for this figure. This does look like Dan Aykroyd, but it looks like Dan Aykroyd about 15 years after he made Ghostbusters. I'm not sure why Diamond or Gentle Giant or whoever it was that sculpted the head for this figure, why they chose to go with this look for Ray. I mean, he's got kind of a puffier set of cheeks, his chin sticking out a little farther, he's got a larger forehead, more consistent I think with the way he looks now. His hair's a little more pompadoured I think than it actually was in the movie, and I'm kind of disappointed about that. And as you'll see here too, the paint lines on the eyebrows actually are not aligned properly with the sculpt, so that's a bit disappointing. Coming down the figure, he's got some excellent sculpted detail on the jumpsuit. I like that the name's been printed on here. They even painted the silver zipper. There's a Ghostbuster decal here on the shoulder. It's not raised or any sort of design like that. It's just kind of printed on there, possibly with a tampo or something. Wish that was a little bit different. We did get some actual elbow pads, which is nice, and they painted the actual color around the elbows, and there's all these wrinkles coming through on the jumpsuit. Very, very nice there. On the back of the figure, we have a lot of attention to detail on the proton pack. Little stickers here, lots of paint detail with the wiring. I mean, everything looks like it did in the movie. On the other side here, you'll see more of this sort of paint detail on the actual straps for the proton pack. Now, what I've noticed here is that there is the intent of being able to pull this plug here and have the proton pack come off. But on pulling this a few times, I'm starting to get stress marks on that peg, and I worry that if I pull it off, this proton pack won't securely fasten around the figure again in the future. I think that Diamond intended for you to be able to take it off, but I'm really kind of scared to be honest. If I end up with a duplicate of this figure, or maybe further down the line when there's the Ray that's supposed to be coming out where he's off duty and his jumpsuit's partway unzipped, if he has a proton pack that's attached on him, I might go ahead and give that a tug and see how easy it is to pull it off and put it back on, because if I'm going to end up having two Ray figures when I build the diorama piece that comes with these figures, it'd be nice to have one that doesn't have the proton pack on all the time. Next, you'll see Ray does have his neutrino wand, and it's a very nice looking piece. It's a little warped out of the packaging. It's got the cable running from the back of it that goes all the way into the proton pack, and there was an attempt by Diamond to go ahead and make this fasten to the actual proton pack on the figure. What you're going to see here is on the actual neutrino wand, there's a set of slanted tabs, I guess you would say, and on the actual proton pack, there's the hook, movie-accurate hook where the neutrino wands would plug on, but instead of sliding on, which would make the most sense, they've kind of designed it to where you just kind of press it on there, and sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. I get mixed results with it, but for the most part, you're probably going to have your Ghostbuster figure holding the neutrino wand the whole time, unless you want it dragging on the ground, or unless you want to risk pulling off the proton pack altogether. We have a very nice belt here for the figure, lots of painted detail. All sorts of colors on here. There's actually a spot here that seems to be for the trap, which I believe comes with Winston, so you'll see that in the review of Winston when he comes up. There's a pocket here that holds the walkie, which is a great detail. It actually, goes in and out of the holster, which I like. Coming down the figure, we have more excellent sculpted detail for the fabric on the costume. We have this yellow tubing coming out of the leg and going into the back of the proton pack. Really, it seems like in some places, Diamond made a real effort to impress us. In other places, they just kind of fell short. Ray has a ton of accessories as you see here. He's got 4 interchangeable left hands and 6 interchangeable right hands. Now out of the packaging, Ray's actually got some flesh-colored hands on. And you'll see here, for the left hand, he's got a hand that actually grips. He's got a hand that's kind of relaxed or maybe kind of holsters the neutrino wand. And then he's got this gloved gripping hand as well. It's worth noting that both of these hands are the exact same sculpt, it's just one's been painted black. You can even see the fingernails on the black gloved hand, so that's kind of an interesting choice there. We'll see that we have these glove pieces, so when you pull the hands off the figure, the flesh-colored hands, you'll actually slide these onto the wrist of the figure to be able to give them the look that they have their gloves on. I'll show you how that works here. And you want to pull gently. All of the pegs on these hands are very much like the Art Asylum style Star Trek figures. They're very weak pegs that I'm worried will break if you're not careful. But you can pull off this sort of wrist piece of the glove and then put on a flesh hand if that's what you want to do. And it articulates back and forth. And you know, it looks pretty decent on the figure once the gloves have actually been removed. So you have those hands. You also have this set of goggles. I don't remember the exact name of them from the movies, and it's great that Ray comes with these. He honestly should. But I wish Diamond would handle them a little bit differently. As you'll see here, there's a strap that goes over the top of the goggle piece, which fits perfectly over this pompadour once you put these goggles on the figure's head and kind of slide the strap down behind. We can just go ahead and do that. It's pretty easy to get that on. And honestly, once the goggles are actually applied to your figure and they're straightened out, they look pretty decent on Ray. But for the most part, the goggles in the movie very much tend to be a prop, and actor Dan Aykroyd just kind of has them mounted up on his forehead, or even over the front of his hair. What I think I would have preferred, however, is possibly an interchangeable head for this figure. That way we have a head that can have the goggles placed on over the eyes, and then a second head that maybe has the goggles permanently mounted to his forehead. I think that would have been a better look for the figure. Lastly, we come to the proton stream for the neutrino wand. And this is a nice enough looking piece. I don't know that it completely captures the look of the proton stream from the movies. It's kind of hard to do in physical plastic. I do think Mattel had a great idea when they used some translucent plastic for their line of Ghostbuster figures, but this is the way that Diamond has chosen to proceed. And you'll see here on this end, there's what almost appears to be a peg, and when you look at the actual neutrino wand, the tip of it doesn't actually have a hole in it. Diamond has actually acknowledged the issue, and they announced at the recent 2016 Toy Fair that they're going to be including clips in the Wave 2 set of Ghostbuster figures so you can better attach the proton stream to the neutrino wand. However, if you want to combine the accessories right now, you kind of have to jam the proton stream into the sculpted detail of the neutrino wand. The next thing that Ray comes with is the much touted diorama piece that Diamond Select says that they're going to include with each figure in this wave. Ultimately, collecting each one of these pieces is supposed to allow you to rebuild the rooftop scene from the end of the first movie. And I really like that idea, but it means we're going to be collecting a lot of figures and paying a lot of money to be able to finish this display. As it stands now, I'm hoping there's some improvements made in the next few waves of these figures, that way I feel a little bit better about having to pay all that money to complete the base. Oh, and a huge warning to you guys. Out of the packaging, these display pieces are dirty from the factory, very dirty. As you can see, there's some noticeable browning on the piece that I'm holding right here, and it's even started to add some stains to my display cloth, which is really frustrating. Definitely be sure to give this piece a good rinse before you actually place it anywhere you care about. Articulation-wise, Diamond had some great ideas, but the execution is a bit sloppy. As we take a look at the head, you'll see it does look left and right. It can kind of look back a little bit and look down much nicer. There's a rotation here at the shoulder that bends out from the body. There's a single jointed elbow that bends forward that far and bends back about that far. The elbow pad does not get in the way and it does rotate around. The elbow also rotates at the elbow. There's full rotation here at the wrist as well as a hinge moving back that far and down that far. The figure has sort of a diaphragm joint here that rocks a little bit, but it's very hard to get a proper grip on this figure to utilize that joint with the proton pack on the figure. So you almost have to kind of just assume it's not there. There's a full rotation at the waist, which was really tight on my figure when I first pulled him out of the box. And as you can see here, it's still a little bit tight, but he does rotate left and right to some extent. His legs are designed to move forward pretty far, move back pretty far, out from the body, but this is a really soft joint, so you're gonna have to kind of play with it a little bit. It's kind of that DC Universe classic style hip joint. There's a full rotation at the upper leg, and again on my figure it was super tight out of the packaging, but it does rotate all the way around. A double jointed knee that actually bends fairly nicely. You can get the leg all the way back. I'm having a little bit of trouble right now, but there is a double jointed knee there. And then there's actually an ankle that'll bend forward that far, bend back about that far, and it's got that Hasbro style ankle pivot that we're seeing on a lot of Diamond Select figures these days. Now the articulation on this figure, like I said, there's some great ideas here. They don't all work as well as I would like, and another problem with this figure is that the proton pack is actually kind of back heavy despite being somewhat hollowed out. So you kind of have to play around a little bit to get the feet and the legs just right so that the proton pack doesn't weigh the figure down. Height-wise, we can see that Select Ray does come in right around 7.5 inches tall. And for some size comparison, here we have Select Ray compared to Captain Picard from the Art Asylum Star Trek The Next Generation line. And I do believe Dan Aykroyd's actually taller than Patrick Stewart in real life. Here we have the Select Marvel Zombie Sabretooth figure, and then we've got the 6-inch scale Marvel Legends Infinite Series Wolverine. And sorry guys, no stop motion this time, this Ray figure is just too hard to keep standing. Alright toy fans, well that's my review of the Ghostbusters Select Ray Stantz figure released by Diamond Select in 2016. Overall, I've got to be honest, and it's killing me because I was really anticipating these figures, but I do think Ray here is a bit more of a miss than he is a hit. There's a lot of great ideas in the figure, the detail in the outfit and the proton pack, the articulation's a bit of a letdown, I love the amount of accessories that he comes with, but the face sculpt isn't quite right, that buildable diorama piece that came from the factory dirty is very aggravating, and while it seems like Diamond intended for the proton pack to be removable, it's not without possibly damaging the figure, and it's really hard to pose this guy. I've got to say at this point, if you're dying to have this figure in your collection, go ahead and go for the Toys R Us version that runs about $10 cheaper. But for those of you that may already have the Mattel line of Ghostbuster figures in your collection, you sadly may want to go ahead and give this figure a pass. Well, thanks for watching this review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Reviewing this figure definitely stings a little bit. Do me a favor if you would and give me a like and help me feel a little bit better about this. And be sure to share this video with anyone you know who's also eyeing these figures. As always, you can keep up with me on Twitter and Instagram at D21Beast. And remember, for your next figure review, you know who to call.